What's up, guys? Before we get into the video today, I just want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, and that is Thrive Fantasy. Come prop up on Thrive Fantasy this season. Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports app for player props. All you have to do is choose 10 out of the 20 player prop options to build your lineup. Use promo code HIVE, that is HIVE, when you sign up today, and you will receive an instant $20 bonus on your first deposit of $20 or more. Download Thrive Fantasy on the App Store or the Play Store, or by visiting their website, www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop up today. What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Hive. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn, and today we're going to be talking about the injury bug biting the 49ers yet again. It was reported that wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, offensive lineman Ross Reynolds, and defensive lineman Dee Ford all left with injuries. What do you think of these injuries, and do you think the 49ers are yet again being stung by this injury bug?
Again, it's one of those things where, you look at it, and because we follow the team, we see a lot of these injuries, but it seems like a lot of people are getting hurt, and I think that's due to the fact that there were no off-season programs, really, that everybody was relying upon themselves to stay in shape. I know in the case of Brandon Ayuk, it looked like he pulled up with a hammy, that's something that happens every year. It's a little nicky-knack injury. Dee Ford's injury is not expected to be super serious either, as far as I've heard. So they'll probably be back. The one serious injury was a guy I've never heard about. So, it sucks for that guy, but I mean, that's just next man up in that situation. It does seem like the 49ers do have an inordinate amount of injuries at all times. We're not even talking about the fact that, Weston Richburg's on the PUP list. He's not going to make it. And then I think it was Ben Garland who was backing him up, had a severe ankle injury that's going to keep him out a couple of weeks. And now they have Daniel Brunskill inside, and they just signed a guy off the street to kind of compete for that center spot. So, those kind of things, they worry you a little bit. Fortunately, the season doesn't start for, another 17, 18 days. So you have about 3 weeks to get everybody under control and, all your positions settled. And hopefully, we can get the injuries under control. But on the plus side, speaking of injuries, we're talking about Trent Taylor looks really good in camp. We're talking about Jerick McKinnon looks really good in camp. We're talking about a shocker. Jason Verrett has apparently looking like his old self. It was reported by somebody that he hit 22.2 miles per hour in practice, according to the little digital thing they have in the shoulder pads. That's really quick, man. I mean, we're talking about Breida led the NFL last year. I think it was 22.8 miles an hour with the ball. So, I mean, you're talking about 0.6 of a mile an hour off of that. I mean, that for somebody who was burnt toast against Pittsburgh Steelers and had years of injury history, him getting back up to speed like that is, kind of excited. So you kind of have to take the good with the bad. Hopefully the players that are injured can come back quickly. I know in the case, again, of that offensive lineman, he's probably never going to play in the NFL. I mean, let's be real. He was an undrafted free agent out of Iowa. I hadn't really heard of him before, his name popped up on the injury report. So, you wish him the best and you hope he can come back. But, we're really more concerned with Brandon Ayuk, a first rounder, and, of course, Dee Ford, who, everybody's hoping gets back because he's one of the premier pass rushers in the NFL.
Well, I agree with you. Those are certainly more two important injuries in players for the 49ers. I don't quite diminish the Ross Reynolds injury as much as you do. To be fair, we didn't know who Daniel Brunskill or Justin Skule were either before they stepped in last season and played relatively well. So just kind of play devil's advocate. Ross Reynolds could have stepped in a COVID year where linemen are, going to be a really, really valued commodity. And he could have played well, especially like you said, you got Weston Richburg is going to start the season on the PUP list, and now Eric Compton's injured with the ankle injury. Who knows? Maybe Ross Reynolds could have been something special for the 49ers, not like all-pro offensive lineman, obviously, but he could have been somebody that could have filled in nicely for the time being, and it wouldn't have been such a steep drop-off between now and who knows who's going to be playing in his place now that he's injured. They did report that he was very seriously injured. It looked like he had to get carted off the field. Mm-hmm. All of the out linemen came up and, praised him, helped him up off the field. I was reading a report, I believe by NBC Sports Bay Area, and they were saying, it's never good when the trainer, goes to check him out and sprints as fast as you can to get the cart. So it's something that was serious. And 49ers tackle Mike McGlinchey even said it himself, like he was praising Ross Reynolds for just that he's done everything the team's needed of him. And, it sucks to see somebody like that go down before the season even starts. And no matter who the player is, that statement applies to everybody. But you just think somebody like Big Mike, he's giving this guy praise. So he had to have been somebody who's going to be able to play at least average, playing style. But I do agree. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk and Dee Ford are the two prominent names that came up on this injury report. And when I remember I was going into Target and I saw my phone go off with Brandon Ayuk and my heart just sank, man. I'm like, not again. We just had this Jalen Hurd injury. Yeah. I can't deal with Brandon Ayuk being injured as well. But then I read that he stayed on the sidelines along with Dee Ford, and I felt a lot better about it, because if that were something serious like an ACL like Jalen Hurd, I don't think they would be standing on the sidelines for the rest of practice.
Yeah, well, and really, I mean, if it was a really bad hamstring pull, he probably would have gone back immediately to get treatment. So it sounds like it was just something, he felt something that wasn't right and just stopped himself and, pulled himself. That happens. Nick Bosa, he's second year guy, but he's still getting maintenance days. Everybody's rounding into shape. It's this weird kind of, again, post COVID, like, what are we doing here? Sort of, kind of thing going on. And, I'll grant you the Reynolds thing on that. I mean, let's be real. What was he really going to do? He was going to back up Brunskill, who's probably going to start at center right off the bat. And then you still have, everybody else is pretty much set where they're going to be, tackles are taken care of, guards are taken care of. So really it was that inside, that center that's, so you would have hoped that Reynolds didn't play at all, that, Brunskill just holds it down until Richburg comes back off the PUP list, until Garland, his ankle heals up. Those are going to be a couple weeks. But again, like I said, on the bright side, we got a lot of guys coming back from injury that look really good. And then I saw it reported out there that Coach Shanahan says that there's a chance that Deebo Samuel could even be back for week 1. So, it is a give and take. These things are going to happen, especially, again, no off-season programs, no organized team workouts, no preseason games. I mean, I think that the NFL in general is going to have an issue with injuries right off the bat. I know the 49ers are instituting their no live tackling in practice. That's not true around the NFL. There are other teams who are doing live tackling on specific days to try to build up kind of those calluses. But, especially in the case of the 49ers with no live tackling, I would expect a lot of guys, in the first couple of weeks, you're going to see a knick-knack injury here or there, and it's just going to be next man up and do the best you can.
There were a couple other guys, and I do agree with you. That is it's such a strange year. No OTAs, no preseason, shortened training camp. So nothing is really normal, but the 49ers, I do think, are making the best of it. But Matt, there were a couple other injuries I wanted to get your opinion on before we wrap this up here. Ross Dwelley also sat out with, a foot injury. I don't want to necessarily call it an injury. He said that his foot was bothering him. But the biggest one I thought was DJ Jones. It was initially reported that he left with a shoulder injury, and then it was later corrected that he had a concussion. That's correct. Yeah. Does that concern you at all, being somebody that's constantly in the trenches?
No, they're going to take it easy with him anyways. So, this is, again, another... for the time being, it's going to be another redemption year for Solomon Thomas. Apparently, he's like 2 million pounds now, and he's kicking back inside where he says he earned his money in college. Doesn't change the fact that he's been a disappointment so far. So hopefully he can do something, but baby hands don't magically grow. So I'm not expecting a whole lot out of him. But if he can fill the gap while DJ Jones, who is a monster, can heal up and really just, give yourself enough time to fully recover from the concussion. Give yourself a break from, that hitting helmets, anything like that. It'll be better in the long run. And, of course, I bash on Solomon Thomas. It's all love. Like, I really hope he plays well. It's just, again, we've heard it so many times that, you kind of need to see it to believe it. If he can, though, that just adds to the depth of, the deepest unit in the NFL, which is the 49ers defensive line. So who knows how it's going to shake out. But DJ Jones long-term, I don't really see, I haven't heard that he's had a history of concussions. So I don't really see this being a lingering issue unless he tries to come back too fast and then, ends up getting another concussion, which you don't want. You need to take some time off and space that out. So if he can take a couple weeks, kind of, chill out from there, he'll probably do pretty well. As far as Ross Dwelly goes, it is a bit concerning. Again, foot injuries are always this nebulous thing that you just don't know, how long it's going to take to heal. Again, we're talking about, Trent Taylor, who had all these issues. Another big-time tight end who's had foot issues his whole career, Greg Olsen. You just never know. You're just like, man, I feel really good today, but then one step, and it's just like, oh, well, now I have a Liz Frank injury, or oh, now I have a Jones fracture. Oh, I have this and this and that. So that really bears watching. And as we'll talk about in a little bit, Jordan Reed isn't practicing, and we don't really know why. So Dwelly actually, with the retirement of Selleck and, the departure of some others, Dwelly has a real shot to be an impact player here. So right now the 49ers, I think, are down to 3 healthy tight ends, Kittle, Warner, and I can't remember the last guy. But there's a spot for Dwelly here. If he can, stay healthy, and that foot bears watching.
Going back to Solomon Thomas, I just got to throw in here when he said, "This is where I made my money in college." I was just cracking up. Like, the NCAA is going to start an investigation. How much money are we talking here?
Right.
But
35 cents. No, I mean, I think what he's talking about is, hey, I'm going back to the position that made me the number 3 pick, is essentially what he's saying. Yeah. And I'd love to see it, but who knows? Yeah.
And I mean, reports out of training camp, take them with a grain of salt, but they have been that he's looking like his old self. He's looking like a beast. He's actually finding a home in the middle of the 49ers defensive line. And if that's the case, like you said, this defensive line just got that much better. Now, touching on Ross Dwelly, just real quick before we wrap things up here, the 49ers, maybe they do think it's something serious because they went out and signed former Colts tight end Eric Swoop today, according to Ian Rappaport. So it could be a camp body. It could be something that they're monitoring. Early reports out of camp are that he is kind of struggling against guys like Colton McKivitz. Does that concern you at all, being that he is a first-round pick?
I don't know. It's really weird because a lot of the reports you hear, like, he's getting beat up in, like, one-on-ones. You know what I mean? And the thing about Kinlaw coming out is that the scouting report on him is he's an athletic freak, right? But technique-wise, he's not really there, So when you're talking about one-on-ones, technique is everything. You could be the biggest dog in the fight, but when it's one-on-one like that, if the offensive lineman gets his hands on you and you're leveraged too high, you're going to get knocked on your ass, like with what happened to Kinlaw. I think it's different when you're in, a game situation or you're in, 11 on 11s, because now the line's blocking a different way because they all have their assignments. The defense is attacking gaps. So when you're stacked on the line and you have, Eric Armstead on one side of you, Nick Bosa, D Ford, right? There's more of a chance that you're going to be able to use your raw athleticism, and technique will matter a little less than when you're just going head to head with a guy. You know what I mean? And so from a long-term concern, am I concerned? No, like, rookies are going to struggle. Like, that's how it is. Especially rookies. You're talking about an interior defensive lineman that's 6'5" and like 300 pounds. Like, he's a gigantic human being. So he's always going to have to do the best that he can to make a real concerted effort to stay low. And that's something that's going to be coached into him. And, I just think that it's going to be up to the 49ers defensive coaching staff to really get on him about that. But, again, rookies are going to struggle, especially this year, given the situation. No OTAs, this is stuff you clean up in those early rookie camps. You know what I mean? Like, you get out there, you get on the sled, you do your one-on-ones, and then the coach goes, hey, sit your ass down, get your pad level right, and then get in there, but he's having to learn on the fly. So for me, it's a little bit of a concern from, the aspect you wish you had more time with him to kind of correct some of those things before you were in live game situations. But I don't think, that it's, and of course the Twitter overreactors, Kinlaw's a bust and this and this and that. It's not that, okay? It's just a rookie having some early struggles and finding his way through the NFL, because after a college career where you could just blatantly overpower everybody, you get to the NFL and all of a sudden you're not the biggest dude on the block anymore, and you have to learn how to play football instead of just being an elite athlete. So that's really where we are with Kinlaw right now.
Yeah, that's a really good summary of it, actually. But I think that's what it comes down to, is when you're the top dog in football on your team, you're just not used to going up against guys who are just as good, if not better. Then you get to the NFL where it's the cream of the crop. These are the best, however many players in the NFL in the entire world, So it's like, it's not like you're going up against, high school recruits or, guys like that. No, these are the best players in the world, best linemen, and even the worst lineman on any team is still, one of the best ever. So it's crazy to think, but I think the main reason why it's even a story is because he was the 49ers first round pick and Colton McKivens was drafted later in the draft. And people are probably thinking, whoa, on these one-on-ones, Kinlaw should be dominating just based off of their draft selection alone. But that's not how this, really works out. Maybe McKivens just matches up really well with Kinlaw's style of rushing, or maybe his size, whatever the case may be. When I first read the report, I was a little concerned because I think it was out of 4 reps, Kinlaw didn't win one. McKivens had won all 4, and then I think the following practice he finally did beat McKivens one time or a couple times. So based on that alone, it's concerning, but it sounds like he's improving, and it sounds like he's able to kind of get his footing and understand what is being asked of him. And I think what you said there kind of encapsulated this perfectly is when you're playing on Sundays, it's not one-on-one out there. You're on a defensive line full of your teammates who are the most talented defensive linemen in the NFL. So he's going to get some help. It's not just going to be him out there on an island with another lineman going against each other for, 60 minutes. That's not how this works.
Exactly. And you talk about so one of the common things you hear on defense for defensive linemen is shoot the gap, right? Shoot the gap. There is no gap in one-on-one. You're going against one guy. There's no gap to shoot. So it's technique versus technique. And in this instance, Kinlaw is raw on his technique. But for a little bit of perspective, anybody can be made to look bad. There were reports earlier in camp that Trent Williams knocked Nick Bosa on his ass. And we all know that Nick Bosa is already one of the better edge rushers in the NFL. So it's all levels to this, and things are going to happen one-on-one, again, it's one of those things where you just can't judge yet because we haven't seen him in game situations. People come out and say X person is not a good practice player, but he's a gamer. He's great in games, and that could very well be true for Kinlaw too. We just don't know yet. So, it's all about perspective, especially this early on.
Does this get you excited on the other side about Colton McKivens' potential at all?
I mean, yeah. I mean, even with technique on technique, Javon Kinlaw is a physical freak. So McKivens must have some pretty good technique if he can, overcome that type of athleticism. It is exciting, and especially because we do need offensive linemen. So if he can come in and contribute and kind of hold down, a reserve role, somebody who could, maybe be a swing player on the offensive line, someone who could plug in multiple positions, that'd be cool. I mean, that'd be really fortunate for the 49ers to have. So it is good to see that McKivens, who I think we got in the 5th or 6th round, it is encouraging to see that he can get in there and do that. Again, I think it's more about not having OTAs. And really a one-on-one thing being a little bit different, especially for a defensive lineman who really, when you really think about it, it's the defensive lineman is trying to keep people's hands off of them. That's why you shoot the gap. Offensive lineman's job is to, get inside that pad. Again, in a one-on-one, man, you're just right there and you're going, you know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. Like you said, it did sound like he was starting to get some reps. So hopefully that means he's a quick study. By all accounts, he's a hard worker, and everybody's impressed by just the sheer size of the man. So, he's got some expectations to kind of overcome just because of the man that he's replacing. DeForest Buckner was very beloved around here. And I think that it's unfair to hold him to those standards, but knowing the fan base, they're going to anyway.
It's so funny you ended it with that, because I recently spoke with Grant Cohn of Sports Illustrated, the most hated man on 49ers Twitter by far. But he was saying that, the people are already thinking of, Emmanuel Sanders is replaced by Brandon Ayuk and DeForest Buckner is replaced by Javon Kinlaw. And he was saying, that mindset may be there, but at least the 49ers didn't give Brandon Ayuk, Emmanuel Sanders' old number. They gave Javon Kinlaw 99, and fans that maybe don't follow football as closely are going to be looking out and say, hey, that's not Buckner. Who's that? So the expectations, you're not only literally filling in the guy's spot that left, you're wearing his number. Like they're big shoes to fill right away. And it's a lot to ask of a rookie, regardless of how, high they were drafted or what potential you think they may have. It's a lot to step in and do on day one. And the main thing I want to add to all this is come next month, come November, October, whatever, if he has like a run stop that's going to win the game, or a fourth down stop, or a sack, nobody's going to be thinking about the reps that he got mauled against Colton McKivitz back in August. It's something to talk about right now because there's no more meaning for football going on. But once this progresses in actual football and we get to see him out on the field, nobody's going to even be thinking of this. So I just think that it's something to talk about because he is a first-round pick. Colton McKivitz was a fifth-round pick, like we've said. Yeah. But it's, I don't know. I'm repeating myself here, but I think you know what I mean. It's just I'm not too concerned about it. Doesn't seem like you're too concerned about it.
No, and I think, again, temper your expectations. I know that he took 99 and Brandon Ayuk did not take Emmanuel Sanders, which, by the way, I want to say I'm glad he didn't take it because 17 is a bad luck number on the 49ers. I'm telling you, nobody who wears 17 has long-term success here. Prove me wrong. But, I think that was a lot of Javon Kinlaw, too, being a gamer and being like, hey, you know what? I'll take that number. I don't care. I'm gonna be the man around here. So hopefully he can live up to that. But as it stands right now, temper your expectations. There's no reason to be concerned as of yet. I mean, he should be fine.
It was reported that he did throw 3 interceptions, and a lot of beat reporters are kind of jumping on it, taking the bait, throwing the bait out to the fans, I should say. Are you making a lot of this?
No, I mean, Matt Barrows said it best when he's like, I'm prepared for 49ers Twitter to implode over this, but Jimmy G threw interceptions. And, you're talking about he threw 3 interceptions during a red zone drill where everything's compact. It's short on the field. 2 of those interceptions were tips, allegedly. So one went to Cyprian, one went to Kinlaw. The third one was admittedly a Jimmy Garoppolo mistake. But, I mean, camp is the time that no OTAs, no nothing, right? By all accounts, on other days, Jimmy G's deep ball looks amazing. He's doing all this stuff. But, of course, you have those haters out there, and I know Grant's been on the YouTube channel a couple times, done a couple interviews and stuff, but he likes to stir it up, especially when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo interceptions. The ghost of 5 interceptions past are coming to mind right now. And I feel like Matt Barrows put out that tweet specifically for Grant because he knew Grant was going to say something. But no, there's nothing to read into this. Like he also had touchdowns before and after the interceptions. So it's just one of those things. You're working on a compressed field. You're trying to get some stuff done. Got a couple tip balls because you got a bunch of large bodies in a confined space, and things happen. Everybody has good camp days and bad camp days. I remember Nick Mullins throwing interceptions, but to hear it from some people's mouths, Nick Mullins is the better practice quarterback. So who knows? It's just one of those things where it's slow news day. People want to focus on sports and try to take it there. Take it to a place where it doesn't really fit. You're just making a mountain out of a molehill, and to me, this is a non-starter. Jimmy's going to be fine.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about it because this is the time where quarterbacks specifically are trying to get it all out of their system, and not necessarily out of their system, but they're trying to test their arm or get the play down, and if they can get it into a specific window, whatever the case may be. This is when they learn the most about themselves, about what they can do, about what they can't do. More importantly, in this case, and like you said, 2 of them reportedly from tipped passes. So it's like, what can Jimmy do about that if the receiver is just going to bat it up in the air? 9 times out of 10, that's going to get picked if it's just sitting there. So,
or if it got tipped, or one of them, Kinlaw intercepted one, so that tells me that it got tipped at the line or something like that. You know what I mean? Like those things happen, and again, we don't know what the play call was, if they were running the same play just to try to drill a concept or whatever, or what was going on. So it's reading a lot into a little with no information. I haven't seen any video of it, so I don't know the context of this stuff, and I think it's super easy to just be like, oh no, you see 3 interceptions. You're just like, oh no, that's bad. It's not like this was 3 interceptions in a game, which would be bad, which has happened before. I mean, I think he had 3 last year against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They still won that game, but, there was a lot of interceptions going on. So, what are you going to do?
I think more importantly, you said there he had 3 touchdowns as well, which is just completely overshadowed by the fact that he had 3 interceptions. So, I mean, I don't really think that it's something to worry about, especially as 49ers fans. Like I said, this is camp. This is the time to get those mistakes out. They're trying to get these plays perfected, knowing who to go to in which scenarios. And like you said, he's been working on his deep ball. It looked really, really good. I think I read that he had a deep pass to Bourne that he just missed on, but the ball is looking good. The throw is looking good. So I think he's improving, and he's never really been, not to play that card, but he's never really been the best practice quarterback. We heard it when he was in New England. The reporters would say, something along the lines of, wow, this guy kind of looked like crap all week. But when he got out on the field, when he did play, the few times that he did, he looked really good. So I don't think he's ever been known to be a practice star or, a practice guy who's elite at practicing. So it doesn't really matter, because when he steps on the field on Sundays, he's able to turn it on, and he's not thinking about those 3 interceptions he threw in training camp back in August, So, Matt, does this give you some hope? I don't want to say hope because it's already a stellar defense, but does this make you excited about this defense and their potential to build upon an already stellar year last year?
Well, you like to see Kinlaw getting some stuff done. I know that we talked about, Kinlaw struggling a little bit in one-on-one drills. So this is, more of what we're talking about, where when you get in around other guys and you have a lot more happening, and you can't just be focused on, you can't have a guy, just up in your pads square one-on-one with nowhere to go, no gaps to shoot or anything like that. Now you see that Kinlaw is athletic, can make plays, and by all accounts too, he had a nice return, had an open field cut, and looked really spry out there. So that kind of stuff you like to see. You like to see a guy like, Jonathan Cyprien, who hasn't been here very long, come in and make some plays too. He's fighting for a roster spot. And then, of course, Richard Sherman, who had an injury scare earlier in the practice and then comes away with an interception. And, he's had a couple on Jimmy in camp. And that's just, veteran instincts, veteran savvy, and being around Jimmy Garoppolo enough to know, hey, this is where this is going. So, you want to see good stuff from the defense. Again, from what we hear, Jason Verrett had another really good day, had a very physical pass breakup today. And, it's one of those things where there's some healthy people coming back that's going to make a big difference. I saw somebody tweet out that, hey, maybe Verrett's not even competing for a roster spot, but really a starting spot. That's how good he's looked in camp. So, these things are really, good to draw off of for the defense. And then when you switch around to the offensive side, Juwan Jennings still looking good by all accounts. I haven't heard anything bad about Dante Pettis. He's still having a pretty good camp. And, more importantly, we've stopped seeing some of these wide receiver injuries too. So Deebo Samuel was on the sideline today, no boot, no limp, looking like he might be back for week 1. So, you take the little things that you can get. And again, this is just one of those things where you're going to take a quarterback who's trying to make some plays, trying to install some stuff. Who knows what the play calls were? And you're going to turn a mountain into a molehill and ignore all the positive stuff around it. The 49ers defense was number 1 against the pass last year. So, I mean, wouldn't you expect some, camp interceptions from the quarterbacks and stuff just by nature of how good the defense is,
Yeah, that's a good point, because they're not a completely different defense that this team's going against. It's the same one that was historically great through most of the year last year. So I would be more surprised and concerned if the offense was just blowing through them with no problems at all. I think what people aren't talking about enough here in this scenario is wide receivers tipping the ball, or if it was wide receivers, it could have been at the line, like you said with Kinlaw.
It's really hard to know without context, without video. Right. We don't know. But even if it is, even if it is, the receivers got to shore up their hands. But, you can't put all of that on Jimmy. But that's all that we hear is that, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo did this. Right. And it's, it's like it's not just Jimmy,
Yeah, and it just automatically, I get flashbacks of that Monday Night Football game against Seattle last year, where all of those passes were getting tipped and picked and almost picked. And it's like, these receivers, man, they're not doing Jimmy any help by letting the ball hit them square in the hands and just bouncing off. So Hopefully they're
Right.
able to get that in check. If it is on them, this is pure speculation. I'm just
Well,
saying.
and that goes back to the home opener against Pittsburgh too. The two interceptions. One was off of Breida's hands where he just like bobbled it up in the air, and admittedly the throw was a little bit behind him, but I think Jimmy was trying to turn him away from contact. And then the one that bounced off of Pettis' hand that Minka Fitzpatrick intercepted and took back. So again, yeah, their tip drills are a very dangerous thing, and there's a reason why. You don't want to see that ball go off hands and up in the air because, like you said earlier, more likely than not, it gets picked.
Yeah, so I think all in all, I'm not concerned about it. Doesn't sound like you're too concerned about it.
No.
I think this is exactly what you said. It's kind of a slow news week, but I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think Jimmy Garoppolo has improved from what we're hearing, what we're seeing. The only thing I don't want to say challenge you on, but I've seen conflicting reports on Jason Verrett this whole camp. I've seen he's looking amazing. I've seen he's looking like a starting caliber cornerback. I've seen he's looking like the Jason Verrett of the Los Angeles Chargers. And then I've also seen, whoa, this guy's getting burnt. This guy's not really comfortable with his injuries yet, or coming back from injuries yet. And maybe the 49ers aren't trusting him as much. So I don't know. It's hard to tell where he is as a cornerback coming back from injury, but
yeah, I haven't seen a lot of those negative reports, but from the people that I consider credible, the Matt Mayokos, the Matt Barrows of the world, they're saying that Verrett looks good. Jennifer Lee Chan, people like that, they're saying that he looks good. I don't know what other people are saying. The whoever Joe Blow over at Niners something or other. I don't know what they're saying, but I can only go off, especially with, no preseason games, limited access to the media, to practices. So we really don't know. So we can just go based off of what we've heard. But, the fact that there is some objective data that, he hit 22.2 miles an hour. They have the little trackers in the shoulder pad that showed their speed. I mean, that's approaching Matt Breida level of speed. So, if that's any indication, I mean, the speed is there. So we'll just have to see when it comes time to the real games and see where he is on the depth chart,
Yeah, definitely. If he pans out, the 49ers are looking really good in their defensive backfield. But I think that's going to do it for us today, guys. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Our handles are below on the screen. And I just want to thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Hive. If you like what you see, do us a solid and hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers so we can give away another 49ers jersey. If you like this video, hit that like button as well. And make sure you comment your thoughts below. Do you think that Jimmy Garoppolo's uneven day is concerning at all? Or do you agree with me and Matt that it's not really anything to worry about?
Go ahead and click the bell for the notifications. That way you get the videos right when they come out. And until next time, go Niners.